markets around the world, American Express building, one of them. Martin Savage watching the building, watching the ground as well. Marty, I assume you are safe. Tell us what you can see.
Well, we're just talking actually with an engineer as to try to ascertain exactly what is going on. He is a volunteer that is working inside the building that is in question here. And he says that all of those people that were inside this building, and as Adam pointed out earlier, this is a building that was being used by the rescue teams here for a number of various reasons. Anyway, the building has been evacuated, and apparently we're also being told that work has come to a standstill. Now, I have to paraphrase here or point out that we are not allowed to go down in that area. We have not been allowed to go down in that area. Security is extremely tight, and especially on the media. And so we cannot go down there and sort of verify for ourselves. But we are being told that this is the building that is in question. And here is the problem, as explained, is the fact that when the World Trade Center buildings came down, the collapse, the force of them hitting the ground was literally like triggering an earthquake. And some of this area here, some of it especially, is on landfill. And as a result of that, structurally weakened buildings from the bottom up. And so you can look at a building, as we pointed out before, and say it looks okay. And we should point out this particular building on the other side does have extensive damage. But from here, it looks all right. But at the base, apparently there are problems. Now, there has also been reports that there had been a water leak in the basement that had been going on for some time, and that might also undermine the stability of the building. So, again, all eyes appear to be focused on this particular point. Activity out here on the West Side Highway has come to a standstill. Some vehicles have been turned around, and we are being told that activity as far as searching for survivors has also been brought to a halt. If it came this way, we'd have a problem.
Marty, stay with us here. Maybe we can highlight again the building so viewers are clear which building we are talking about, but it's the one with the point. There you go. American Express building. Lehman Brothers also has considerable office space there. In the last 3 days, it has been used, as Martin said, as a triage center. It's also been used as a makeshift morgue, as a number of buildings around the World Trade Center complex have been. We've referred any number of times today and in the last couple of days to the West Side Highway. The West Side Highway runs along the Hudson, obviously on the west side of Manhattan. It is the major thoroughfare. It runs pretty much the whole length of the island of Manhattan. As I walked down it yesterday, it is just lined with vehicles that are part of the rescue operation. Everything from dump trucks loaded with portable restrooms to generators with night lights to heavy construction vehicles to sanitation trucks, which in New York in the winter become snow plows, and they put snow plows on the front of them to help those sanitation vehicles clear out some areas. All of those trucks and assorted vehicles are lining the West Side Highway. You cannot drive down the highway in Lower Manhattan at all. It is all now being a staging area. So when we talk about the West Side Highway, don't think of it so much as a highway right now. Think of it as a very long and important parking lot, because that's what it is. There are people down at the base of the building still, and there were people in the building that are, as both Martin and John have reported, have been told to get out. It is not clear to me, and maybe Martin, you hear me best right now, it's not clear to me how many people were in the building at the time, and who precisely those people are. Are those medical personnel?
Well, I think these were people that were working for the various reasons you explained. Yes, there were medical personnel in there. I think that they were using it for storing equipment, also feeding and looking after, in general, the many hundreds and, in fact, over thousands of volunteers that are down here, as well as the professionals. It was thought to be a good place to put them because of the fact that it was a building that was relatively new and thought, at least up until this point, relatively stable. And it remains to be seen exactly if there is going to be a serious problem at this point. But we do know that the evacuation has apparently taken place. And we also know that activity out here has come to a standstill for some reason, and this might actually be what it is. The question is, how long does it go on? And if the building is such a threat, if there really is this problem, do they begin thinking about the prospect of bringing it down intentionally? There are a lot of reasons why you would want to. There are a lot of reasons why you would not. Number one is the fact that you would have to be very careful how you brought it down. But of course, any impact on the ground is likely to shift that debris pile. It is going to affect the opportunities and the possibilities of getting to those that may be trapped beneath the ground. And the hope is that if there are survivors, that's where they are, anywhere in the 6 levels that extended deep below the World Trade Center buildings. So
I think
it's
all
a
of
double-edged
us,
sword.
I think all of us, you, me, all of our viewers, have seen these planned implosions of buildings, and they are very complicated operations, and it requires that people go into the buildings placing explosives in very precise places so that the building implodes, doesn't go out. The problem in Lower Manhattan is that it is very tight. It's not that there's a lot of room for debris to fall without causing a problem. And as Martin pointed out a couple of minutes ago, the sense here was that when the plane hit, it created, or when the buildings collapsed, created essentially an earthquake. We have a structural engineer on the phone, Jim DeStefano. Jim and I talked, I think it was on Tuesday, and we talk again now. Jim, tell me, as you've listened to all of this, how we're doing and what you think is happening in that building.
I have to apologize because I don't have your broadcast here, so I don't know exactly what's going on. But it's my understanding that one of the adjacent building is in critical condition.
Well, they are evacuating the American Express building. There's some smoke coming out of the building. There is, as described to us, some listing of the building. And this is about a block to the west of the Trade Center building, 51 stories, 738 feet. Those are the stats.
Okay. Now, I understand that there have been a lot of broken gas mains and things like that in the neighborhood, which are a particular hazard in an instance like this. I'm not sure if that would be a contributor towards what you're observing right now.
How would that contribute to the listing of the building?
Well, if you had an explosion caused by a gas leak, that could cause that sort of effect on a building.
Okay, I mean, I have not heard any of our reporting there suggest that any of our reporters say they have heard an explosion. I'm not saying there wasn't one, we just haven't heard it. Anything else that might be causing this come to mind? Well, I realize you're not there and you can't analyze it. Give me your best guess, I guess.
We've got a lot of things that these buildings have been subjected to in the last few days. Just the ground shaking associated with the impact of the two towers falling and collapsing the way they did creates a seismic force on the ground not dissimilar to an earthquake. And that, of course, can do some serious damage to adjacent buildings and to their substructure. So it's very possible that some damage associated with the collapse of the adjacent buildings has now triggered some structural failure within the adjacent building.
At some point, assuming the building doesn't fall here, people like you, the structural engineers, have to go in and look at it and see how stable it is or is not. What do you look for in those situations?
Well, it's very difficult. You need to look at all the key structural components, look for signs of structural damage or structural failure. You look for members that have buckled or in the process of buckling. You look for deformed members. You look for anything that could be critical to the safety of the structure.
Okay. Jim, help me with what I didn't quite understand what a member was. Talked about a buckled member.
Well, a structural frame is comprised of a number of different structural members. There are beams, which are horizontal members. There are columns, which are vertical members. There are diagonal bracing elements that are also structural members. And you try and look at all these components and try and identify critical elements that are deformed or showing signs of structural distress.
Stay on the phone, Jim. I want to bring in John Voss, who's quite close to the area now. And Jim, as you listen to John, you may pick up some information that helps you analyze this for us. John, what do you got?
Aaron, we're being moved out, and again, a few moments ago we all stopped because they thought that they heard something under the rubble. We're trying to work out which building is which in this area, which has been incredibly damaged by those terrorist attacks. The problem is that the buildings are covered in dust. They're so badly damaged, and they're just virtually unrecognizable. So when we talk about a particular building, quite often we're talking about two different things. Talking about the Millennium Hotel, you were talking to me about the American Express building. Both these buildings, we believe, have suffered some sort of structural damage, and both are in some kind of danger. The American Express building is to the south of the World Trade Center. The Millennium Hotel is directly opposite to the north. So that's basically where we stand at this stage. Once again, the workers have stopped. They believe that they may have found or heard something underneath the debris, so I'll have to stop talking.
Okay, you stay safe. Jim, did you hear anything there that helps you analyze what you think might be going on?
It's hard from that kind of information to be very specific about what might be going on, but clearly when structural elements start to fail, you do get rumblings, you do get shuddering of the structure, and those are all early warning signs that something is on the verge of collapsing.
I'm just getting a report, and there's no elegant way to do this. Let me just read it to you. On this building, the American Express building, as they were moving people out, quoting Dr. William Bradley, who was an ophthalmologist. Dr. Bradley was treating rescue workers who were getting all manner of soot and fiberglass in their eyes, and he's been working on that. He says there was some panic in getting people out of the building. Some of the doctors who were working there got clogged in the revolving door. That, quote, there was a stampede of doctors trying to get out of the building. I'm never going to forget that. I thought I was going to die. He praised a group of firefighters who returned to the site shortly afterward, and on it goes. Martin Savage, let's keep an eye on this for a second and come back to it.
Sergeant.
I want to go back, Marty, to this rescue that took place earlier today, because it is, and we always use this word very sparingly, it was somewhat miraculous. The 5 firefighters rescued in an SUV. Tell us, update us if you can, and background those people who may just be joining us.
Well, as you say, it is a miraculous event that's taken place, although you have to keep it in the perspective of the tragic background in which it is played out. Essentially, this is what happened, and it was probably about an hour and a half ago. I guess time seems to be spinning by quickly with all the developments. There was a spot out in the area underneath the Twin Towers, it's believed under the World Trade Center building number 1, that had been marked out yesterday, as for some reason the rescuers, the searchers, felt that this was an area there could be some life. And then what happened? I'm just watching as people rush around. They went back today, and they began the earnest work of focusing on that area, lifting, removing debris. It was then that they revealed the roof of a Chevy Suburban that was a New York Fire Department vehicle. They eventually cleared down to the door levels and opened the door, and much to their amazement, they say that there were 5 firefighters inside, alive and well, after spending 2 days there. So that is the situation. Apparently, the chant USA, USA went up. I'm reporting live, Martin Savage, CNN, in Lower Manhattan.
Marty, thank you for that, and all of you, Martin, John, Adam, if you're still there, and Jim DeStefano, if you could stay with us a bit longer on the phone. I want to go to Atlanta, the airport in Atlanta. CNN's Bonnie Anderson is there. Bonnie, are planes coming in, leaving Atlanta yet, or are they preparing to?
Well, the airport is officially open, and I can tell you that the terminal behind me is a hive of activity, but there are still very few planes coming in and out of Atlanta at this time. Literally thousands of passengers are lined up in front of the counters trying to find out how they can leave, and more importantly, when they can leave. Most of these people were stranded for at least 2 days. And for most of them, though, the answers to their question is not going to be a happy one. It does not appear that most of them will be leaving anytime soon. Now, to give you an idea, Delta, which is headquartered here and by far the largest carrier out of Atlanta, normally has 900 flights in and out daily. That's about 80% of all flights through Hartsfield. But they expect just a few to operate today, not even 5% of their normal schedule. They say they need to move planes around, they need to move crews around, so there will